When I went back to school, it was actually no, we're in the part where it was still spring break. I had already been like a month out of school. I think that's how long I had been out. But I was better. I was walking. I'm actually really glad that in spring break I got to recover because that was my whole week of recovery basically. But when I went back to school after spring break, I couldn't walk up the stairs. I remember we took the elevator that was only supposed to be used by special needs kids or staff members. Okay, so me and my friend, I think it was two of my friends, I'm not sure. We were going up the elevator because I didn't want to go alone. It felt weird. So they went with me. We got to, I think it was the second floor, the third floor, I'm not sure, of my school. We got out, and one of the teachers that was in front of the elevator, he said, "Why are you riding the elevator? You're not supposed to." And I was like, "I have lupus." And then he was like, "What about you guys?" So he was like, "Yeah, you don't have an excuse. Go back and walk up the stairs." I was like, but I was happy that he didn't ask me what lupus was. He was just like, "Oh, okay." Then when I came back, people were like, "What happened? Why haven't you been here?" You know, stuff like that. My classmates would be like that. And at that point, it was really embarrassing to say, "Oh, I have lupus," because I don't know why I have lupus, and there is no cure. But many people would ask me, and I would just be like, "Oh, I have lupus." And then they would be like, "What's that?" And I would be so ashamed that I would want to cry. Like, that's how ashamed I was of having lupus, even though it wasn't my fault. Months went by, you know, my hair started thinning because it's just something that happens with lupus or the meds of lupus. I didn't notice how much hair I started losing until one day I went to the restroom. I did my necessities. Then when you're washing your hands or doing something like that, you look in the mirror and you're like checking yourself out like any normal human being, you know? And I turned just a little bit. Was it this way or this way? I'm not sure which way it was. I think it was this way. And I turned this way and I see, I think it was right here or right here. I'm not sure where it was. And I see a bald spot that was this big. And my first reaction was crying. And that's how I lived my summer. My summer, I had bald spot. I was super skinny. I looked dead, like a walking skeleton maybe. The new year came along. I was a junior. Yeah! Woohoo! It should be a great time, right? In October of the same year, 2011. You know, it was a normal day in my first class, my math class, you know, everything was fine. I was going to my ceramics class, and once I sat down, the teacher usually gave an intro to what we were doing and like how we had to do certain stuff and like call out roll before we started doing stuff. So that would take about like 30 minutes, maybe 20. I'm not really sure. I think it was like 15, 20 around there. And I noticed that my foot fell asleep. And I was like, "Oh, you know, it'll wake up right now." So I wiggled it, you know, how you wiggle it, stuff like that. So I started wiggling it, and then I noticed that my hand was also asleep. And I was like, I took it as a joke, honestly. Because I hadn't done much research on lupus and the things it could cause or anything like that. So I wasn't really fully aware of my own illness, so I didn't know what this was. After my teachers finished, you know, calling roll and doing all that kind of stuff, I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so, I can't feel this part of my body." And he was like, "Do you feel drooping on your face?" And I was like, "Yeah, a little bit," but I was laughing about it. And then he was like, "Are you sure you're not having a stroke?" And I was like, "I don't know, I've never had one, you know?" And we all laughed, you know? And he was like, "Oh, well, if you're not feeling better in like 5 minutes," I think he said 5 minutes, ask one of these young ladies to go with you to the nurse. I was like, "Okay." Then after the 5 minutes, he was like, "How you feeling?" And I was like, "I still feel the same." He was like, "Go to the nurse." So my friend helped me go to the nurse. When we got to the nurse's office, the nurse was like, she looked at me and I told her my symptoms. And then she was like, "Come here." And she took me to her private bathroom that only people that have certain illnesses could use or stuff like that. And she asked me, she was like, do you see anything different? She made me look in the mirror at my face, and do you see anything different? And I was like, yeah, my lip. My lip was drooping like this. You see how it's different from this side? Like, this one's more fuller and, like, out there like that, and this one's more, like, inwards, you know? Well, that's what happened with my stroke. She was like, you might be having a stroke. You should call your parents. So I did, because my dad wasn't working. So I was like, oh, my dad's at home. I can call him. So I did. So then he got there. He checked me out from school, and we were like, okay, what do we do? And then I was like, oh, I'll call my rheumatologist. So I called her, and as usual, they don't pick up because they have a lot of people to, you know, like, attend. So I was like, you know what, let's just go over there. And we did. So I told my rheumatologist, actually one of the nurses, my symptoms, and my rheumatologist immediately took me in and checked me. I just remember she was like, okay, go buy some baby aspirin and go to this hospital and get an MRI done. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, you know, the whole numbing of my right side of my body, it would come and go. We went to the pharmacy, we bought baby aspirin, then we went to the hospital. My dad stayed in the waiting area. They took me in the back. I was alone. They made me change into one of those hospital robes. Oh, and then they were just like, you know, come with us. I don't remember if they gave me a little liquid to drink like they usually do in MRIs, but I just remember going in and they asked me, pick out a movie. So I was like, okay. So I picked out A Maid in Manhattan because I've never seen that movie. So I was like, let's watch it, you know. This is going to be quick. So, you know, I went in the little tube and everything, and I started watching the movie, and it was really cool and everything. The movie ended, and I was falling asleep. But they told me, you can't move. So then it took a lot longer after the movie ended. They didn't ask me if I wanted to see another movie. So I was like, okay, whatever. So then it was done. They were like, we're going to call you back in a few days and, you know, like, whatever. So I changed back into my clothes and I left. That same night, I was at my friend's house because my friend had just passed away. So we were giving our condolences to his family. So then my rheumatologist, she called my dad's phone and she was like, I need you to be admitted into the hospital tonight because you suffered a stroke this morning and we need to check up on you. And at that point, I knew a stroke was bad. I didn't know how bad it was, but I also thought I was going to die. I'm a very negative person. I just noticed that. Like, I think I'm going to die all the time. So my first reaction was to cry, and I said, okay, I'll go. So, obviously, everybody saw me crying, and they were like, what's going on? And I told them, I think they think I have a stroke or something like that. I don't remember what I said. And then they were like, oh, we're going to pray for you. So we all prayed. Then after that, we left. My family left. My sister stayed over with the neighbors because they went to the same school, so she could take them. And I went to the hospital with both of my parents. So then I was admitted into the hospital. So we went in, and they were trying to put the IV in my arm. The nurse, I remember, she pricked me once. She put in the needle once, and blood wouldn't come out. Nothing would come out. So then she wiggled it, and that hurt. So I was like, and then all of a sudden, blood comes out. It was all over the bed. It was all over my clothes. It was all over the nurse. Then they took me into my room, and I don't remember what happened after that. I remember I was in there for about a week. I don't remember showering in that week. Before I could leave the hospital, they told me I had to learn how to inject myself with blood thinners. It was really hard at first. That took about 2 hours to prick myself with the needle. The process was like I had to grab a chunk of my belly fat right next to my belly button and just squeeze it like this and then grab the needle and just boop. There's something terrifying about pricking yourself. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that you're pricking yourself, so if you die, it's on you. I don't know. After I got out, I had to do chemo for 3 months. I didn't have a bad reaction to the chemo like other people have, so I'm thankful for that. Actually, I was eating throughout the process of them giving me the chemo all the time because I always eat. But one time when we went to go to chemo, I think it was one of my last chemos, they said, oh, we're going to give you a bigger needle so we can finish faster. I was like, oh, great, it's great. That needle was huge. So they wanted to put it in this arm, in this little vein right here. They started to, and then they got not even halfway, and they couldn't fit it through. The nurse had the nerve to just squeeze it, like try to squeeze it in, like, and of course, they stopped, they bandaged it up, they put a normal needle over here. So I had a double scar. After those incidents, up until now, I've only had a little scares, I've gone to the hospital, but I'm good now. So, yay! So, take care of your bodies. Take care of your health. Do anything you can to keep your body as healthy as possible. Because I would give anything to not have to drink 9 pills a day. Later on, I'm going to give another video about my depression, what I went through after I left high school. But that's for a different time. So yeah, this was me talking about my lupus story, and I'm out.